All right, so now what we have to do is what we just did on the last problem in the previous video, and we have to find and mark and label the amplitude, the period, the average value, and the horizontal shift. And we're going to get all of that from here. So this is our A, this is our B, this is our C, this is our D. Now remember, D is the average value, so that's 3. So if we come up here, and we draw a picture as good as we can, or line across there, that's our average value. And that's equal to 3 because that's what D is equal to. Now A, we know is the amplitude, and so we know from here to here, that's going to be 5, which is the amplitude. Okay, now we think about it, 8 minus 3, that's 5, so that works. Now we can also go from here to here, and that better be 5 too. So we say minus 2 to here we have 3. So 3 minus a minus 2 is 5. And so again, that's our amplitude. Okay. Now, period. Our period is going to be, remember, 2 pi over b, which in this case is equal to 2. So that's going to be equal to pi. Now, what that means is going from here to here is going to be pi. That's our period. And we just have to be at the same position. So we could have gone from here to here, or we could have gone from here to here. We just have to be at the same position, and that we know is going to be pi. And that's approximately 3.14. And so if we see that, that's going from 2, here's 3, it's a little beyond 3, and it's roughly going to be 3.14 is what it's going to be. And so, but we couldn't actually come up with that looking at this, I don't think, visually, but we can come up with it mathematically and get an exact answer, which is pi. All right. Now, what's the next one? Well, it's going to be C over B, which is -1 over 2. And so that is going to be our horizontal shift. And notice it's negative, and so it's going to be shifted to the right. And so if we look down here, here's 2, here's 1. So here's about a half. And does that make sense? Yeah, that looks like it's been shifted to that point by about a half. Okay, and it's a negative here, but remember, and that's just because, so x is less than 0, we shift to the right. Okay, and so that's that shift to the right. Okay, so I think we've found everything: amplitude, period, average value, and horizontal shift. All right, so how about the next one here? Okay, so again, we're going to do the same thing. We have our A. Now here, remember, it's bx plus c, and so we have, in this case, b is equal to 1 and c is equal to 0, because all we have is just t, which is what we're going to call x. And so we have those values, and then this is our d. Okay, so this being d, that means we've shifted down to -4, and so this is going to be our average value. Okay, -4. Now it says a is equal to 3. Well, that should be from the average value to here, right? That should be our amplitude. Now, what is that? Well, it's -4 and 0, so that shows an amplitude of 4. And this says it's supposed to be amplitude of 3. So what happened was they wrote the wrong equation here for what the graph is. So the graph technically is wrong, or the equation is wrong. And we're going to say the equation is wrong because the graph is, it's here and we're labeling the graph. So we don't really care then because this is wrong. And so our amplitude is actually 4, and that's what A is supposed to be. And so that's kind of a key problem. Every once in a while you'll find a book has something like that wrong, and so this is the case here. This was wrong, and so we have to note that the equation was wrong, but that's our amplitude, and that's because that's the average value, and to the peak, or to the trough down here, that's going to be equal to 4, and that's going to be our A. All right, so what do we know next? Okay, so now we're going to go and we find our period. So our period is going to go from here to roughly here, because this is going to continue down again like that. And so what is that going to be? Well, it's going to be 2 pi divided by b, which we said was, guess what, 1. And so the period is 2 pi. Okay. Now, if we wanted to, we could, take 2 times our pi, which is that 3.14. So we get 6.283. And so that's going to be our period. So 6.283, that's probably as far as I would go as far as that one in 3 decimal places. And that's how far it is if you actually were able to determine, what it is here and what it is here, estimating, that's what it would be. Okay. Now, what about our horizontal shift? Well, that's going to be our C over B. Well, C we said was 0, over B we said was equal to the 1. And so that's 0. So guess what? That's probably right on, because that's exactly right on the average value. That's where that piece going up is. And so there's no horizontal shift. Okay. And we calculated it and we see that there isn't one either. Okay, so we've got horizontal shift, we've got the average value, we've got the period, and we've got our amplitude. So that's everything that we need there. All right, so now we're just given the equation and we don't even care. So if they have the equation wrong and there's no graph, so all we are going by exactly is what's on the equation. So we want the amplitude. Well, A here is equal to 1 because it's A times the sine of blah, blah, blah. So A is equal to 1. So that's our amplitude. Okay, now let's do average value next. So that's D is equal to what? Well, 0.7, and that's equal to our average value. And then our period is equal to 2 pi over B. Well, B is 2.2. And, that would be the exact value if we wanted it. Now, if we wanted the actual numerical value, we'd just take 2 pi divided by 2.2, and it would get 2.86 roughly. So we'll say approximately 2.86. And a horizontal shift, and that's going to be the 4.4 divided by 2.2, and 0.4 divided by 2.2, that's 1.8 or 0.182. Okay, and so that's all the values that they asked for. And again, we just got it out of the equation here. Now this one, same thing as asking for, but we don't have all the pieces. We don't have a D, so what do we do now? Well, here A again is 1, and so instead of writing it all down, I'm just going to follow the same thing. I won't write amplitude or average value. Now D, what is that equal to? Well, that's where we have plus whatever. Well, there's nothing there, so D is equal to 0. So what does that mean? That means our average value is right along that x-axis. So it's going to be coming down and going up, something like that. And so our average value is right on the x equals 0. All right, so what about our period? Okay, well, that's 2 pi over b. Well, b here it says pi. And so that's going to be just 2 because the pi's cancel and we get 2. And then our horizontal shift, we'll call it HS. Well, that's going to be equal to a negative 2 divided by pi. And again, that's the most, accurate as far as the values go. But you could take and go ahead and divide negative 2 by pi, and we get a negative 0.637 roughly. Okay. And so again, approximately equal to that. All right, so that would be for this one. Now, what about the plain old sine x? Well, that's, we're getting rid of a lot more pieces inside here now. So what do we do now? Well, well, that's still what's out in front here. That's just 1. That's our amplitude. D, well, again, there's nothing out here, so that's 0. And the period, well, that's going to be 2 pi divided by b. Well, b, that's still there. That's still just a 1. So that's equal to 2 pi, or approximately the 6 point. And that's, again, what is that one equal to? 6.283. Okay. And then we have HS, and so that's going to be our C. Well, there's no C, so that's 0 over B, which is 1, and that's still 0, so there's no horizontal shift. So this is our original function, actually. And then we did a little bit more to get this one, and then we did a little bit more to get all of them. So we'd have A, B, C, D. This one just has A, B, C, and this one just has A and B. And so this is our original function sine of x, okay? And if we think about that, if we go back to here, that is the original sine function. And, and then it's going from +1 to -1, and that would be our sine function. All right, so let's get back to here. All right, so I'll pause here and then I'll come back with some more.